All right. Well, today on the bench, we're going to get into a bit of a recovery from Wicked Weekend. If you guys don't know, Wicked Weekend is a great event put on by Racetime Entertainment guys. Happens over in Gainesville, Georgia. It's a fantastic time. I went with my kids, my son and my daughter. We raced about 5 classes. I had my nitro truck, my electric truck, and my e-buggy. I run all technos, and those are all ET, NT, and EBs. My kid runs technos as well. He's got a nitro buggy and an electric. During the races, we had some failures, I'll say. For the boy, his nitro had some difficulties, and he had some braking in qualifying. I think he finished one qual in the end, and he actually he qualified into the E-main Sportsman Nitro, and he ultimately won that race. Unfortunately, he had to race marshal race, and so his next race was an electric buggy race. And so he goes to run the race, and he wrecked under another car that was pinned against a pipe. And I guess he went nuts on the throttle there, and he heated up the battery, I guess. I'm not really sure. But next thing I knew, he's coming down off the stand, getting the car, and as I was walking through the bleachers to go and chat with him to find out what happened, I see out of the corner of my eye that his car is now on fire. So I run through the bleachers trying to get to the kid and the car, and by the time I got there, everybody was there and started to kick sand and dirt, mulch, all that stuff onto the fire to try to snuff it out. But unfortunately, that means everybody was distracted by the electric fire. We missed the nitro bump because it was the next race after. So good times from the kid there. I think he had the pace to go all the way up to A, and he might even have podiumed. But unfortunately, the world had different ideas. For me, I'll say I had a pretty good race weekend as far as I'm concerned. However, I did break some stuff. And that's what we're going to work on today. So today on the bench, we've got an NT48 2.0 that's mostly a 2.2 and an NT48 2.2. This guy, the 2.0, with a lot of the hop-ups, actually came from one of the racers here at Thornhill, one of the pro guys. So when I had gotten it from him, it was all hopped up and everything like that here, right? It had the nice turnbuckles and all that good stuff. Unfortunately, you'll notice that there's back to stock turnbuckles here, and I'll explain that in a minute. And that's also the same reason that this front clip is off of the 2.2. This truck actually came from the same gentleman here at Thornhill. He's getting out of technos, so kind of unloading all of his techno stuff. So I really wanted the 2.2. And so the idea today is to get this guy up and running, get all these electronics, motor, all that good stuff moved over, get that front clip back on this guy, and we might take those turnbuckles off and put them on the 2.2 as well. Not sure about that one. So the story here is that so I had my nitro races, and I burned up a clutch during one of the qualifyings and replaced the clutch and everything like that. And when I did, I replaced the motor mount, the stock motor mount, with this one that I got off of this truck, this J&T mount. It's a really nice mount. However, whenever I put it in, I guess I didn't clamp it all the way down tight enough, or not put enough Loctite, because my engine mounts came loose and I lost that clutch bell too. You'll notice it's a little chewed up, unfortunately. So we have some work to do. So that's on the slate for today. We'll get these guys cleaned up here in a second and bring them right back. Now we got these guys a little cleaned up. All I do is really just spray WD-40 on the front and rear clips. I've got a nice quiet air compressor that I have over here in the camper at the track, and then I use that to blow off the dirt and dust and grime and all that good stuff, and hope to get some of that WD-40 into the joints and things like that, and it'll kind of free up your arms and whatnot. If you got a little bit of bind on your hinge pins or a little bit of bind at a flex point, a little bit of WD-40 goes a long way to free those things up. Obviously, if you have a bent hinge pin, that's not really going to help you too much, but little WD-40 goes a long way, actually. Yeah, let's get into this. I think what we'll do is this old box here. We're going to take this front clip off, put it on the new guy, and then we'll swap out all the electronics and move those things over. We'll get the motor out and get it switched over. And that should be it, good to go. We will have to put the new clutch on, since we do not have drive at the moment. Yeah, great, let's get into it. I think we'll start on this front clip. I got some nice little hooks that I like to use for fishing the dirt out of these screw heads. It's usually dirt gets caked in there, mud, clay, all the good stuff, and sometimes it's kind of difficult to clean her out. But you want to get that thing cleaned down all the way down into the bottom of the socket so your hex can get on there and not strip it out. If you do strip it out, and you're going to look at some more work to get it straightened out, right? Basically cut a slot in the screw head with a Dremel and a cut-off bit, and try to turn it out with a flathead screwdriver. Hope for the best. It's better to avoid those situations altogether. This way, just clean these things out. That way we don't strip them out. We don't have to do any work on diffs and things like that today. I know these are good. We just ran them in a race, and I rebuilt them right beforehand. So these guys are good to go. Just need to move them all over. So we'll take all these screws out of the gearbox and the chassis, and then the steering top plate as well. Be careful if you do this. By the way, these screws can get shaved down and almost be razors on the edges here. And if you turn them and you're not ready for it, those things will slice right through your skin and leave you hurting. It's kind of crazy. All right, let's get this top plate off. Oops, that's a 2.5. And then I guess we will need to disconnect the steering links as well to go back on this guy. So let's do that next. We'll go with a 2.5 here and a 5.5 box on the top. Man, I put that on there tight. Oh, did I strip it? No. Good. Guess there's no question that was going to hold on. Phew. Alright, let's make sure we keep our washers together here for bump steer. I have 4 washers here. That was on tight too. Go me. Again, I try to keep my washers together here so we don't make a mess. And that should be it, right? Yeah. So, looks like we had some rub there for the drive shaft. I wonder if that's bent. It appears to be okay. Maybe a little. So I'll tell you what happened here. I had a wreck, and I didn't have down travel limiters on the inside of my shocks. And so what kind of happened was, whenever you get a pull out here on the arm, and you have your droop screw here in the center, if your droop screw is set to where you need it to be, you can have this arm pull down and pull past, it'll flex past the point of the droop screw, right? Because you have so much leverage out here. And when that happens, it'll start to pull on the shock, and if the shock gives, right, the arm will bend enough that your dog bone will come out of the differential. That's what happened to me on the race day. And when it happened, the dog bone came out, but it didn't like pop out and stay out. It came out enough and then kind of plugged itself up against the flat of the outdrive cup, right? Which puts a ton of pressure this way into the diff. And what that did was basically, I guess whenever I was driving it and, apply power, with all that pressure pushing in on the diff, I guess it cooked out the other side of the gearbox. So there was no longer engagement between the pinion inside and the ring gear on the diff inside of the gearbox. So, I was kind of in a pinch, and, my solution was really just to go and pull this whole clip off and put it on the other one and send it, right? And it did work great up until, like I said, my motor mount come loose and I lost drive. But hopefully we'll sort that out here today. So we don't have to worry too much about getting the drive shaft in, because this diff it's actually out. I need to remount it anyway. So I'm not going to sweat too much getting everything, right where it needs to be for the time being. We can bring that up as we go along. Let's get these screws back in the top plate to hold it together for us, and then we'll start on the rest of the process here. So yeah, so that'll pretty much hold everything together for us while we go and wrench on the other parts of the business here. All right, we have to take the bumper out, perhaps? No. Yeah, just slip it around. These longer M4 screws go up the front. They go through the A-block and into the case cover for the gearbox. And hold that front end all together. Super important screws. Don't leave them out. I've done that before. Left screws out on the gearbox, and the outcome was not great. It amounted to the diff kind of moving around in there and not getting good engagement. Because the gearbox is basically flapping around on the chassis, right? To some degree or another. It's not huge, but it's enough to cause trouble. All right. What's that? It actually looks like we have some other loose screws kind of flopping around here too, huh? Good thing to check. Check all your screws. Especially on nitros, everything vibrates so much, you know, things can come loose. Now, we know that's loose. We're going to leave that loose for now. We will need an M3 there, 4 there for that guy. This is chassis weight. Not too worried about that. There's your Ackerman plates. Your Ackerman on the bottom side of those. All right. So that's the front and rear clip taken care of. All right, with the front and rear clip back on, let's get these steering links back in place. I like the middle or back on the Ackerman plate. This one is middle. Moving the steering link back makes the car a little bit easier to drive, a little bit less aggressive, and a little bit less nervous, I think. And I quite like that. I like a lazy car. I like a smooth car. You know, easy to drive. For me, I'm an old guy, you know. So easier to drive is better for me. I don't love a twitchy, aggressive car very much. You know, they're drivable, but you know, my preference is lazy. The challenge with lazy is that you have to start to anticipate things and get ahead of them. You almost have to take action before it's required. It takes a little bit of skill to predict, you know, what's coming and when. Fortunately, I'm not very skilled there yet. I'm working on it. We'll get there, right? Just like everybody, I would imagine. All right, so that's steering back in place. Let's move some electronics over. We're gonna need 2.5. this servo. I like these EcoPower 250s for steering servos. They're inexpensive. I want to say like $1.20 a piece. The gears are inexpensive. I think they're $13 for a set of gears if you need it. And you know, they seem to last. The 250 is good as a steering servo. It could be used for a throttle servo as well. I do not use it as a throttle servo. I instead use this guy, which is the 832. And the reason for that is the 832 actually has a lower profile than the 250, so it sits a little less proud of the mount, which is nice. Let's see how we get this guy off. Let's take the rest of these covers off. We'll just take all of them off for now and put them all back on later. I want to put them over to the new truck, right? I don't think we'll need to. Everything's there, and it's nicely marked for us too, in terms of what diff oils were used, what shock oils were used. However, I don't see shock oils listed there. I do see the piston description, and it looks like they are MIP pistons. I'll get into that in a minute as we come along through this. So you have to take these covers off for getting to battery leads and things like that. I tend to leave my battery in, and I charge it in the car. I just leave that battery there, don't even mess with it, unless I need to move it to another car, obviously. And I like to make a nice little piece of foam. I get these, I run Gen Z's batteries typically, and these foam pieces come in the boxes. If you want to see what that looks like, I have one here. There's a Gen Z's Redline 2.0. These foams right here, they're fantastic. You know, well, I don't know how thick that is. You know, what's that? An eighth of an inch or something like that. But it's enough that you can, you know, cut it up, fold it up, all those kind of things, and keep your stuff safe, right? Ideally. For batteries, I keep mine in a 50 cal camo box that I picked up at the Harbor Freight. It's inexpensive. Just take the seal out of it so that if there is a lipo fire inside of it, it doesn't, you know, explode. Let it vent the smoke and all that stuff. All right. Come on out. There you go. Set these here for now. And I'll have to take all of these electronics out. Got my steering servo and my throttle servo. This is my transponder and my receiver. I like Fly Sky stuff. Yeah, we use a little rag in case of cushion in this case. Also a piece of foam to try to block out this hole to keep dust and things like that from blowing in. And we'll get that. How does that guy come off? It's got a zip tie on it still. See, we have some caps around here somewhere. I think. Maybe. Nitro bag. Well, maybe we don't have caps around here. Let's go with this. Yeah, you just don't want, dust and things like that falling into your carburetor. I like to put a little cap on the carb just to make sure, right? Likelihood is you're never going to have to worry about it, but, better safe than sorry in this case. All right. See, I think we can get the servo out without having to go to the chassis plate and unmount things. Yeah. Good. And let's get this guy out. Take this servo horn off. So you have another servo horn on the other truck. Probably just run that one. Leave everything the same. I did not like to lose that screw, but we'll get it in a second. Move that out of the way. All right. So that gets us disconnected from everything. Let's go ahead and take this motor out. Now that we're here, oh, there goes my screw, huh? Oh yeah, that was loose. I definitely have to put some more Loctite on those guys. Man, what a mistake that was. Didn't get to finish my race. Oh yeah, these are really loose. Wow. Stupid. I will Loctite these and crank them down on the next run. That was steak, huh? Jeez. We'll make that one again. Take this off as well. And okay. So that's motor out. I'll have to replace that clutch to be sure. This is a new Red's bell, a new Red's clutch and bell. Unfortunately, like I said, we kind of found neutral. Yeah, that's not gonna work. I have a new one right here, new bell. Man, that's kind of sharp even. Wow, I really chewed that up. Man. Okay. Well, things are replaceable, right? Get this nice Red's 13-tooth Durabell. Courtesy, well, not courtesy. I bought this off of Mr. Ken at the Speed Demon shop at Wicked Weekend. Thanks, Mr. Ken. I think I did buy his last two, so he's probably off ordering some new ones, which is why he didn't even give me the label for one of them, so he could keep it and have it for his orders. So we have a new belt. I have new bearings. Oh, these are not the right ones. These are flange bearings for something else. I don't even know what those are for. I don't have a car that runs these. Let's find some bearings. I think these are the right ones, huh? Oh, we just have two. Perfect. Yep. Nope. That's the one. Fortunately, we have to get some more of those. I need more clutch bearings. All right, for a clutch, I like to take this vice grip, open it wide, and get it on there. We're gonna have to take this mount off, aren't we? I missed that one. Let's see. We have a 2.5 ball here somewhere. Yes. Screw does not want to come all the way in. Why? There it goes. If you don't have a 2.5 ball, this is a challenging endeavor right here. It's very difficult to use a 2.5 straight to get at these. I mean, these are angled. These are like angled of attack, right? Like you're not going to go straight into that screw because there's, the heating, cooling fins in the way. So definitely get a ball driver if you got a nitro. It's almost necessary. And they look like this. Can you see that? So once we get these screws out, we can take that mount off and we can service this thing. These mounts are fantastic. They make it so you can run different clutches on your car, and they're kind of quick disconnect too with these cool little sleds. I probably should have just taken these off, but whatever. Since we got it out anyway, it doesn't really matter too much. So now we should be able to access this flywheel. Like I said, I like to put my vice grips on there, get them right around. I don't want it too tight. I don't. You see some teeth on the bell. I don't want to make too many marks, so it's just barely on. And I've got this great titanium screw. I picked this up at Wicked Weekend. Well worth the spend, I'll say. This is a titanium screw for your clutch that has both a hex for your 2.5 driver, right, or a 5.5 millimeter for a box. So if you wanted to use the box to tighten down your clutch screw, you can. That helps in the case that you strip out the hex in the top. I guess ideally, since this is titanium, you shouldn't strip it out ever, but I guess we'll see. I'm gonna find out the hard way. This clutch is brand new. I don't expect, there's not even any wear on it. And I will replace this bearing because, you know, while we're in here, might as well replace bearings. With this red clutch and this mount, I do not need any shims anywhere. It's kind of amazing. I'm not used to that with the Techno. If I run the regular Techno mount, I have a very difficult time using non-Techno clutches, like ProTech, some other ones, right? Like I have to use oodles of shims everywhere. This mount lets me use this clutch and bell without any shims anywhere. It's fantastic. Let me put a little bit of Loctite on that. Just, you know, while we're here. Last thing you need is find a neutral and erase again. Come on. Just need a little. Thank you. Me, I always like to drive a screw in with a little Loctite on it, and then I like to back it out, and then I like to drive it back in again. Sometimes I do it 3 times. It depends. I really want to make sure that Loctite spreads through the threads and you know, it's actually doing its job, right? You know, heat does soften Loctite and make it less effective. I think, you know, there's probably an argument to be made that, you know, you shouldn't use blue Loctite there, and maybe it should be something else, red or green. But I use blue, and I crank down on these screws almost as hard as I can. Sometimes I'll take another driver, put it through the handle here, and crank that way. But, you know, I don't like to go too hard because the screw does have to come out eventually for service. But that gets us going like that. And you know what, we'll just go ahead and get this back on the mount. Nah, we'll put the mount in first, and then we'll come back to that. How's that? Get a rag, clean that off a little bit. Why? It's just gonna get dirty again. Covered with oil and muck and everything else. If it doesn't, you're not doing it right. I would be sad for you if your nitro motor mount didn't get covered in dirt and oil. So that means you're not driving it. There's a little Loctite in there already. Don't have to worry about that. Anytime you're driving a screw into metal, put Loctite. It will bite you. Where's my mount? Oh, it's hanging there. All right. Let's do this the right way this time. Like I said, with Loctite, I like to put the screw in, back it out, put it back in, that kind of thing. I'm not too worried about where it lands right now. We'll have to do mesh and everything like that once the motor's in the car. So all the way in, back it out a bit, run it back in. And I'm not going tight on these. They should be able to move a little bit. Like I said, we'll do mesh after we get everything back together. That one feels really loose. I should make sure that Loctite gets down in there really well, because otherwise it's going to be a bad day again. I'm going to just put a little dab more because it feels that loose. I don't know if it makes any difference or not, but you know, at least I'm doing something. You know? All right. Last one, and we'll be done for the motor mouse. That one feels nice and tight. Still gonna run it in and out. So I'll leave these a little loose so I can move them around. Like that. All right. I will go ahead and take these quick disconnect sleds off, whatever you call them, and mount those on the motor so I can just bolt these in instead of the motor mount screws with the ball. Did that have a lock washer? No. Okay. Oh. This does not want to come out. No lock washer. Oh, that's just a little screw, huh? It's pretty crusty. These screws I never put Loctite on. Some people do. I don't know why. The heat to me would just wear it out really fast. Instead we use these lock washers, and they typically do the trick. My kid put Loctite in these screws one time on his buggy, and I guess from the heating and cooling cycles, it made the motor impossible to take off of the mount without cutting it. I had to end up, you know, dremeling the tops of the screw caps and putting a flathead screwdriver in there and basically praying for the best. It was not fun. I do not recommend it. So don't put Loctite in these screws. You might have a bad time. I'm not saying you will, but you might. For me, it cost me an hour or so, or 45 minutes of, you know, hacking and finagling to try to get everything sorted. Not ideal. If it was, happily that was, not on a race day or any kind of stuff like that. And so, it was something that I could do in the garage after, everybody goes to bed kind of thing. Not too bad, but, I can imagine a situation where you need to get a motor out in a hurry. And if you don't have a Dremel and a little cutoff wheel, you're not going to get it done. All right, so that's the motor, all good to go, ready to rock. This is a new motor, by the way. I broke it in just a few weeks ago, along with my buddy here at Thornhill, Bogey. I am actually going to buy another one of these. I don't know if it's going to be another RM, but I will get another one of these and do a break-in with Bogey and record that. So we'll have a nice break-in session recorded that folks can refer back to if they want to understand how to do their break-ins on their cars. All right. The other thing we did at Wicked Weekend in a pinch, again, was take the diff out of the back of this guy. We should probably put this guy back in, huh? Left those screws loose. And we'll put this motor in a little closer to the end. Leave her there for now. This clutch bell. Get rid of these bearings. The clutch bell's trash, but, it's kind of fun, right? Probably made a lot of sparklies. Sad to run a clutch bell for a day and chew it up because you weren't smart enough to put some Loctite. Not an expensive mistake, but definitely cost me a race, and obviously this time here in wrenching to replace it. But otherwise these bells are great. These new Reds bells are fantastic. They're supposed to be a little bit more durable. I haven't, only run them for a day, so I don't really know. Obviously, if they're not durable, if you fail in wrenching. So we'll leave that guy around for now. All right, differential in the back. Let's get that moving. This is unfortunately what kind of happens if you have too many cars and break things and drop things. I don't even know what that was. I'm gonna have to figure that out in a moment. It's probably something I don't want to lose. Rear diff, right? So right, same as the front end. These rear gearbox screws run through the chassis plate, through the D block, and into this top plate, the gearbox cover. So you do have to take these two screws out in order to get the gearbox cover off. And please remember to put them back when you're done, or else you might have some funky engagement on your car there. Let's see. We're gonna go. Oh, that's not connected right. I think we go this way. my other drive line there? Maybe 1.5 to reconnect this sway bar link. Sounds bad with the diff hanging out, doesn't it? The good news is it won't be like that for long. These screws are clutch too. Again, you know, this top plate for the gearbox basically keeps the differential in place. If you don't have all the screws in there, your diff might not be held in place, right? And it'd be flapping around, maybe bouncing off the pinion. You're certainly going to have a hard time driving, and you might end up with having to replace your pinion and ring gear in that differential and that gearbox, which is a lot of work and a little bit of money. All right, that gets that back together. Now, I guess let's get this gearbox here out so that we can do some work on the throttle servo and electronics here at the back. And then we'll get into the front end, steering and so on, I think. Why did I take those screws out? That's stupid. I'm not even paying attention, huh? You guys. You guys. You're supposed to say you're doing it wrong. What a joke. Oh well. Pay attention, man. Pay attention. Stupid. All the screws like that I need to take out are just hanging out too. Like if I would have just paid attention, I could have saved myself a good minute and a half. Oh well, that's what it is, right? Why would there only be three screws in for the center diff carrier anyway? Stupid. I need another one of these screws. I hope I have one. All right, take it out of the other car. I'll take it out of the other car. How fancy is that? The brakes are in good shape. I actually have mono brake set up for this that I picked up at Wicked Weekend. What's really slick about it is that these guys put a disc on the differential itself as opposed to out here on the front and rear. So it tries to brake more like an electric car. Which is interesting, fascinating, all those things. One thing that's kind of cool is that when you brake, right, the center diff will actually transfer the stopping power between all your wheels and things like that as you gain and lose grip, across the four wheels instead of just front and rear. where the front and rear differentials kind of handle all the power transfer in the disc braking scenario. If you had just a single brake on the diff, the driveline, it can handle all of the braking for the entire car, right? Pretty cool stuff. Now let's get this other servo out of here. I don't guess we really had to take the whole case off out of the car, but I figured, I better take a look at it, make sure everything's good before I send it. The gentleman who sold me this car is very, very good at maintenance and those kind of things, so I suspect that everything's just fine. But it doesn't hurt to double check everything, and as I'm rebuilding anyway, better to take a look. And I'm gonna get into that thing, like I said, here in the not too distant future with that mono brake and see what that thing is like, so it won't hurt to have it out. Unfortunately, I don't have that mono brake with me here. I can't show it to you, but I'll try to bring it along for the next. So that gets this servo out, maybe? Do I have to take all this stuff out, I wonder? I don't want to. I just want to yank it out. Oh, those are already free. Does that go over, right? Yeah. The mono brake setup, pretty slick. These guys, if you don't know who they are Seth and Sean Van Dalen. Seth is a pro racer for Techno, and Sean's his dad. They come up with this great solution to basically machine out the stock differential carrier to make room for some screws, and then they actually put, like I said, a rotor here on the end of the diff that goes into caliper inside of the top plate, and then they actually mount a fan to the spur, which cools the brake and the differential itself. And they claim that if you were to run for 45 minutes or something, that where your differential would have come off of the track in a truck at about 160 degrees, with this fan, they say that you're looking more at like 130 degrees. So it's 30 degree difference in temperature for your differential, which could be significant, right? Depending on your car, oils, all that good stuff. It could be that that it could change some of the fade characteristics and things like that of the diff as it goes. This guy goes under, yes. So I don't know, that's something to try in the future here, and I will do a video on it and build and drive and see what all we think, How do I get this screw to start? Well, what the heck am I doing wrong? What a mess that was. All right. Why am I struggling so much with this? It's like, it shouldn't be that hard. Where's my screw hole? There. Oh, come on. There we go. For all these screws that go into plastic, you just want to drive them down and get them 2 fingers tight, pretty much. There's a little quarter of a turn more, maybe. You want to get them in there tight, but not. You don't want to turn past the point where you're going to strip out the hole, you know. So yeah, 2 finger tight right there, and then a little bit of extra turn, just. So there's 2 fingers. Right there. Two fingers ish. So that takes care of that. Let's get this thing in the car. Looks like everything's nice and solid. It's going to want to come back and go into that receiver box. And we need another mount screw for the bottom, we said. This is plastic, so no need for Loctite. We do need to connect our front drive shaft, don't we? There we go. And, well, we good to connect the rear drive shaft too, huh? Wow. One of these days, we'll get it together. In the meantime, just hope for the best. Kind of hard to do the 2 fingers on these big guys. You do have to crank on them a little bit more than you would expect. But you don't want to go too far again, because you will strip it and you will lose drive. I'll just grab one of these out of this guy, and we'll call that done. I'll replace this one another day. aside for now. All right. That gets us most of the way there, huh? Next we have a steering servo now. Who knows where it sets? We'll have to make sure that gets in there right later. Let's get steering. All right, have to go and grab these needle nose pliers. Amazon special here. They're great. Nice and long. They don't have much grip. You see they have flat jaws. Flat jaws there. Kind of boring. You know, works so great for gripping things, but they're great for like feeding stuff through holes, right? And then, you know, going down there and fishing those things back out. Because ultimately, this wire needs to run to the back into my receiver box. All right, we could take these screws out. That'll make life a little bit easier. See, needle nose pliers, saving the day. Even with washers. I don't know if you caught that. I like to do that little trick there. I back these screws out all the way until they're loose, but I keep some pressure down on it because I don't want to lose that washer. So typically then I'll take this finger and drop it underneath the washer and hold it against the screw so that I don't lose it like that. And then just keep them together when I put them out on the table. Makes things a little bit easier. These things are a little bit challenging to get in. They don't squeeze in nice and easy. Clean this guy up a touch. It go pretty easy, but it's not like you have to force them a little bit. Don't be afraid to force them just a hair. You're not going to hurt anything too much. The only thing you really have to worry about is the wire coming out of the back of the servo. And as long as it goes through there's an opening in the back here. As long as it goes through the opening, you shouldn't have to worry about it too much. I have one screw that has this rubber washer on it instead of a metal one. I'm not sure why. I think I put it there one day and just left it. I think I'll just bring that along to the new car, right? To the new truck. I don't know if it actually does anything, right? Like, I don't know if it, gives some flex for the servo to flex in the mount. I'm sure it really doesn't do much, but it's there. I'll leave it there until it fails invariably, I'm sure, and then I'll just put a metal washer back. Oh, that's the 2.0. I have to Take all these guys off too. We can route wires. So this truck belonged to Mr. Reggie Tung. He's switched to Kyosho from Techno. And when he did, I asked him if I could buy his truck. So this is Reggie's kind of setup here. What he does is, so he's got 12K, 12K, so that's rear, center, front. He gives you an indication that he has 4 gears in his front differential, 3 gears in his center differential, and 2 gears in his rear differential. You'll know some of the pro racers and things like that will run less than the full set of 4 gears in the differential to kind of soften a little bit. It does a couple of things, right? One, it lets you run a little bit thicker oil, and it decreases fade because there's more oil in the case and less gears, right? There's more oil in the case, so it takes longer to warm it up and break down and things like that. So it softens, so the 2 gear in the back would soften the rear, the 3 gear in the middle kind of softens the flow across the whole thing, and then 4 in the front leaves the front pretty tight. The other thing he does here is he's got 6-hole pistons. This is rear and front. They are 6-hole 1.3, and they are MIP pistons, is my understanding. Good pistons. It's a good setup, actually. I don't know what oils he put in them, but I typically run, 500, 550, 600, that kind of range. So we'll see how it goes, but it feels fantastic. So, I tend to leave it for now, drive it, and see how I like it. All right. So next, let's connect all these electronics. Steering, channel 1, 1 to turn, 2 to burn, we say. Channel 1 to turn, and 2 is your throttle, 2 to burn. And then, where did my battery and my battery extension go? Yes. Battery extension I leave on the receiver all the time so that I can just unplug and plug the battery without having to take the receiver box apart, because to me it's just a giant pain, right? So I just leave this wire hang out here, and I leave the battery wire hanging out here too, and that way I can just connect it out on the back, and it makes things a little bit easier. Alright, so these guys routed pretty well. For batteries, I like to take a little bit of shoe goo and put around where the wires come out here. The reason being is that there's so much vibration in the cars, and the car bouncing up and down and so on. A lot of times I get the contacts will come unsoldered, and so you'll end up in a DNF kind of situation with the battery whose connector came unsoldered. So I just put a little shoe goo around here. This is per recommendation from some of the other guys around the track here, and it seems to work pretty well. You can see it's kind of loose, but I don't really care. It's kind of providing the flex and that kind of stuff that I really need. So battery there. I leave the balance lead hanging between these two pieces, which is what they tell you stock, and then I'll actually connect I've got 3S balance leads that I can connect my charger right in the car, and not have to worry about taking all these things apart just to charge a battery. For me, that's pretty important. We know this guy goes in the battery tray. It's already got a piece of foam in there. Actually, never mind. Sweet man. I won't button that tray up yet because who knows, we might have to come back and do some more work there to get it right. I want to make sure we test everything before I button it up. We'll test all the electronics, servos, so on. Make sure everything works before we get it going. Let's see. Took all these screws out of the other one. We should be able to just use them. Yes, I have a transponder. I do leave it in the receiver box instead of on the transponder mount. I don't know if it makes any difference. I mean, you know, it's a distance of a few inches. And, you know, if the loop is here or the loop is here, I mean, what's really the difference? Is probably, you know, hundredths of a second. I mean, a full clip for going across the street. I don't know. If there is a difference, it's not significant, I'm sure, and I'm not good enough to notice it if there is a difference. So for me, I just leave it in the box and I don't have to worry about it. Right here, who knows? It could get smacked up, smashed. I don't know. Right? I'd rather not find out. Like I said, I typically leave these batteries. I just leave them in the car. I've never taken this one out since I put it in. And like I said, just to swap cars. I just leave it and send it. All right, let's try it out. See what she does. Let's turn on our radio. We'll get this over to the nitro. Yep. Plug her in, see what happens. Should center all the servos. I'm probably going to have to trim everything back. That's okay. Yeah, we got it. So, back all these steering endpoints and trims out. Yeah, -40, wow. Do we have any sub trim? No, just on throttle. And that's for my little brake. Looks like we're pretty well done. Just need to button everything back up and put the motor back on. Typically when you're remounting your Ackerman plate, you want to try to center this plate in this top plate as best as you can and find the teeth in your servo. The idea here is that you want your servo horn and your bell crank over here to be roughly parallel. These are pretty close, but I don't love it. As I have a tooth here, and then my next tooth, unfortunately, is like basically to come around to there. And so that shoves my steering too far right, and I feel like this one pulls it too far left, right? So this way, yeah, it's just too far left. So the thing really to do is to get it into a neutral spot, and then you'll adjust this link, the steering link, to match where you want it to be. So we want to come, let's see, in or out. In is this way. We want to come in and shorten it up a little bit, right? See how that does. Is that right? Shorten? No, we want to lengthen. Lengthen. I think that looks pretty good. You know, we'll get it down to be sure. That looks pretty good. And it looks like it throws pretty well even. Obviously, I need to set the endpoints to walk it back a hair, but I like it. I like it. Oh, that was the screws we lost, were the screws for the motor mount. Oh, oops. Let's go back to this up. Need a little Loctite here. Yeah, this Loctite's like empty. I'm milking it, man. I have more, but it'll be okay. Like I said, I like to drive things in with Loctite, knock them out, drop them back in, just to, be super sure. Try not to fight the servo on that one, and then I'll usually turn the steering wheel all the way over and tighten my clamp. This should have Loctite in it too. Now we can come back and set the endpoints for our steering. So that throws a little bit too far. You see that, like right there, it catches and it kind of pushes the whole plate. So let's get a little bit too much throw that way. Let's bring that down to about 90. Close. 91, 90, 90 even. 90 even looks good, and it brings that nut right up against the top plate. And it looks like even throw the other direction, actually. Not like... I don't like how when I get to a certain point, it kind of flexes the car. When I hit the end point, that to me says that I need to shorten the end point. I don't want to see. You'll see this top plate. It actually flexes when I turn the steering all the way over. And I feel like that's extra pressure that the servo doesn't really need to exert. So probably I should walk that end point back down to a place where it doesn't start to shove the frame. Like, right. I think it's pretty close. The only problem is that brings that end point down to 82, and the other side's got a full throw. So I don't know if it really makes any difference, because effectively it looks like they're the same. Maybe this way could use a little more steering. Nah, looks even. Maybe just a hair. Actually, I could probably walk that up to a ways until I start to flex the chassis plate the other way, right? Which is, yeah, you can see where it catches right there. That's 119. Right there. 109. No. I don't really want it to hit that box and pull against it, which seems to be what it's doing. You can see it comes right up against the battery box and hits it, and then the servo's got to work a little bit harder to pull it back. And you can see the screw head moving too. Yeah, that's not ideal. So let's take that all the way back, I guess. And then I'll probably just have to shorten the throw. I mean, this looks okay. Yes, I have slowed down my steering channel a bit, as just makes the car easier to drive for me. I like it that way. All right, we know everything works. Let's finish buttoning it up. It's not off a tooth, I bet. Plug it back in and see. Backwards. Yeah, that's not right. Right there. Okay. Yeah, that's gotta be it. Spot. Screw for that guy. We need a screw for that guy. Should be a cap head. I must have dropped on the floor. Nice one. So ball head there. All right. Getting close. A little bit more to do. We are almost there. Why am I throwing screws all over the place? That was unnecessary. All right. What's left is this one last little piece, huh? Let's put the motor back. Get the mesh set. Bob's your uncle. Have I mentioned I love this truck? Man, what a great truck. Man. Good truck. So with this motor mount, we can... This mesh is going to be simple. I guess I don't need a ball end, do I? Maybe. Where's my screw hole? Was that it? No. Oh, I did say I was going to put some Loctite on these. Come on. I should just give up on this bottle, huh? Now I got some on my fingers. I can use that for the next ones. That feels like it's got plenty of Loctite in it. not even worried about it. Ah! Oh. There it goes and just spurts out everywhere, huh? Typical. Try this stuff up off the top. Crank these things down. You don't want your motor coming loose. Oh, I was wrong one. Huh? This one I forgot to put Loctite. Ooh, still tight. Maybe it didn't matter. But I'll do it anyway. Better safe, right? Just get all this Loctite off my fingers. That should be good to go. So, I'm a little bit newer to the nitro scene. I haven't done a ton of nitro stuff to this point. Now that said, I know enough, definitely enough to be dangerous. Typically, these guys, especially the racers here at Thornhill, like to set their mesh really tight. Basically just a hair shy of binding, and then kind of let it run in from there. So like this is it's pretty tight mesh, but it's not tight enough. You can hear that click. There's still a lot of play there. So I'd like to take and move this motor in on the mount and see if we can get a little bit better engagement. That's still really loose. Tell you what, let's go on the other side. Let's loosen these two a little bit, and then I'm going to loosen these three quite a bit. I want to make these loose enough that they'll slide around. I want these guys on this side to just be tight. And for me, I'll kind of drag them this way, like with some pressure, to get it just snug. And that way, like, I know it's not going to move, and I can get a feel for where we are. And if I just turn, yeah, see, that's totally bound up, right? That's not moving. But you give it a couple knocks, and it'll start to free up if you've got that loose enough, right? So you can loosen this side and just bring your center screw up a hair, right? And now let's check it again. See what happens. Still too tight. It's bound up, right? So come back, loosen this guy up a little bit more, and just slide it back out a hair. Again, tighten it down, and see if we get, no, still bound. So, well, we know these guys are all loose, right? This guy's the only one that's tight. Let's give it some more room. Maybe what we could do is give this a spin while we're here, and that'll push it loose. How about that? So that's really tight mesh right there. But if I give it a little tap, it'll start to loosen up. Yeah, that's much better. Even better. Let's see what it sounds like from this side. Oh yeah. Not sure if you can hear that. Nice little click. That feels good. So let's get that guy nice and tight. Give it a spin. It's a little tight, but it'll run in. For these screws, you know, I've already put Loctite in them. Definitely want to keep Loctite there. They are into metal. So the next thing that I'll do is grab a screwdriver. I like just a cheap screwdriver. Run it through these. I love these ProTech handles for this reason. You can put a driver through it, cross it up, and you know, use that as your lever, right? They really get these things cranked in pretty tight. You'll see I'm turning my hand, but that screw is not turning. So you can get a sense of how much torque I'm actually applying to this, right? Yeah, that it looks like I might have stripped actually. Oh no, it wasn't all the way in there. Yep, nice and tight everywhere. That should never ever come off unless I make it, right? What's left? This fuel tank probably could use a tighten. A little loose. All right, we can fix that pretty easily. Just give tighten on these screws here that go to the grommets through the tank. Doesn't need to be this floppy. I like a little more secure. You know, like that. Nice. Have a nice pull here. Let's go ahead and replace this nitro tube, right? Who knows what went on here? We have some freshies. And I can cut it to the same length. At least. You know, we got what? 180 millimeters. So, 180 millimeters ish. I do want to make a little ring for my input there for my fuel. I'll show you that in a moment. This will be our fuel line in, and we'll take this needle nose, put it through here, open it up like this. So I just take a little ring of nitro tubing, put my needle nose pliers, open it up, and then I'll just basically put my end of my tube right through that gap, and then kind of slide it all off together. And the idea here is that I leave like a nice little ring on the tubing that will maintain the connection over the barb for me a little bit tighter. The last thing you want, right, is for your fuel to come off. I don't know if it's entirely necessary. I think you could probably go ahead without it, but you know, better safe. For me, I feel like that makes like a more positive kind of connection there. Again, not sure if it really makes a difference, but you know, something to do. And then I guess we're going to need the exhaust side too. And We can run that pretty much like that. And I'll have some extra tubing I could use on a rainy day for something else. I like to use a little bit of nitro tubing on my body clips. Well, maybe that's why this tank was loose, because it's really hard to get the tube onto the barb like this, perhaps. Oh, come on. Oh, so close. There it goes. I'll just button that up along there, run it up behind the supply side and onto the barb at the top of the tank. Come on. That'll give us pressure. Sweet. We need a wing. We need a wing. Not today, but another day, I'll go through this guy and get it cleaned up and loan this to somebody else, probably for a little while, and see if they like to run a nitro truck. For us, the more nitro trucks that we have, the better. It'd be nice to have a regular class here at Thornhill of nitro trucks. Unfortunately, we do not fill a regular class here. It is something that I think everybody would like. Boy, we haven't been able to do it too much to this point. There are about 7 or 8 of us that are regulars that have nitro trucks, but I don't think we don't get enough regular participation, right, in the class. So what typically happens is I end up running nitro truck only at like the larger events, Wicked Weekend, for here, Roar Nationals. We had Roar Nationals. I ran the truck there. Every now and again I get to run it at a club race, but it's pretty infrequent. We're always trying to find more people and bring more people in to the hobby, to the sport, so that we can, hopefully get more people in and get more people in participating, and we can use that to fill club races is my hope. We'll see. We will see. For now, I'll just put this guy under the table. And we'll get ready to put the wing on this guy. And we'll call this done. That'll be the day for me, and I can go run my car. At some point, I want to set things up such that I can run my car and share that view as well. Working on it. If anybody has any suggestions on how to do that, I'd be happy to hear them. Or how best to film the racetrack. I'm thinking that I've got a few cameras, right? I'm thinking that probably I'll see if I can mount a camera up on the driver's stand. And then from there, maybe I'll have like an action camera, like down on the track around a turn or something like that. You know, make it like a, so I can cut to, you know, cut to a clip of, you know, the car making a turn, something like that. Like on a day, say we do a setup change and we want to see how that setup change is going to react and on the track and how it feels and all those kind of things. It would be an awful nice thing if we could, you know, if I could record that and then, you know, provide commentary over that, like how it feels, what we changed, all those good things, right? And with the hopes that, you know, everybody gets a little bit smarter about setup changes and things like that. Because me, I'm not too smart. I tend to play around a bunch just to, you know, I like the FAFO model, right? That said, you know, I do interact regularly with, you know, some pro guys and things like that, and so I get some ideas from them and stuff like that too. But you know, the truth is, the best way to do these things is to find out, right? You go and make a change, drive it, see how you like it, change it back, see if you liked it better, then change it again, drive it, see if you like it, and on and on and on and on. And that's the way, and it is fun. What else? I think that's pretty much us done for this guy. That's all the electronics over, motor over. All the setup stuff is still great. Differentials we left the same, shocks we left the same. Oh, it would be nice, I guess, to connect the carburetor to the servo, wouldn't it? And go. Why not click on? There you go. Perfect. And then for those of you guys who don't know, these bands, I like to run a silicone band, rubber band, some kind of something on my carburetor slide. Why? Because if you're on a race and your servo fails, there's certainly a scenario where it could fail hung open like this, right? So the silicone band is basically just a fail-safe, so avoid a runaway. So in the case that there's something goes on with the servo, the silicone band is actually heavy enough to pull the servo back and pull the slide back in against the idle screw. Yeah, that's kind of how we set that up. And like I said, nice tight mesh. In the future, we'll put a mono brake on this rig, see how that thing runs. I might even eventually put that mono brake on an electric car and see how that runs too, just for fun. But otherwise, that's my my 2.2 ready to run. I have to do a little bit of setup changes on it to get it to go, but she's in good shape. Yeah, that's it for this one. Coming up, we've got some interesting things. I've got a Techno NT48 on order. I want to do an NT48 build on the channel. I have most of the parts for an SCT48 build. So we're going to take a Techno buggy and a Techno truggy and sort of mash those two together and make a short course build with it. That'll run a truggy can and electronics and all that stuff, and it should be a beast. So looking forward to that. Then we get some other things in the hopper as well, some projects, some repairs, some maintenance, those kind of things. And here in the future, we'll talk about some racing stuff, right? You know, for next year, we're going to have the Worlds here at Thornhill, and I'd like to take advantage of that. Obviously, I'm not going to participate because you have to qualify in, and I'm not good enough. but since it is my home track, I will be hanging out here and probably talking to the pros and things like that. Yeah, so that's it for this one. Look forward to the next. Thanks. Like and subscribe.